that we continue to go back to this truth over and over again. And my intention today is to show you why that is so important to every aspect of our lives. And this month, in fact, we are just focusing on the idea that there is only one power, one mountain with many paths, one tree with many branches. A great analogy for all of the different spiritual paths that there are. And yet there is truly one presence. And there's also one journey. Ultimately, it's the journey from the head to the heart, from thinking about God to experiencing God, that love that we feel in our hearts, that peace that we feel that washes over us, that delightful joy that we feel when we are in that space of looking for the good, and we're seeing it and we're feeling grateful for it. Those are all experiences of the infinite, invisible presence. Another name for this thing called God, the infinite invisible. It's also a journey from the illusion of separation to the truth of oneness. So the mystic path is what we're talking about. And the mystic path is what our teaching is really all about. It's about that direct experience, those feelings of love, peace, joy, gratefulness that are the signs of the presence of the divine. And it's also an awareness that the presence of the divine is in all things, in all places, all at the same time. That's this idea called oneness consciousness. So the timeless wisdom that I wanted to focus on today is really summarized so beautifully by Joel Goldsmith, who is a New Thought writer. He says, the painter paints, the dancer dances, the chef cooks, but what of the mystic, he says. He says, mystical living is not intellectually achieved. It's not just a thing of the head, as we just talked about. The mystic lives the mystical experience. And listen to this, by letting God be God as him or herself, letting God be God. This to me just conjures up the whole concept of allowing, relaxing, surrendering the old ideas of who we are and just relaxing in to the truth that we are. It's a very peaceful, wonderful feeling of letting God be God as us. There's no struggle in it. Do you feel that? It's a sense of relaxation and calm. Effortlessness is another way, ease and grace. So I love the idea that Joel Goldsmith said of unleashing the divine, that when we do our spiritual practice, it's not about being more peaceful. Ultimately, it's not about all these things that the ego thinks it's about. Ultimately, it's about unleashing the divine presence in, through, and as our lives. And all that entails more love, more peace, more joy, greater wisdom, greater creative flow, more inspiration, all of those amazing things, simply by letting God be God as us. And the truth is, and this is why this is just, this just helps us to be an easier concept to understand, is that since God is all there is, there's one mind, that's our mind. There's one cosmic heart, that's our heart. We are one, the one life individualized as each one of us, centers of divine operation. I've been recently reading a book called The Jesus Code by John Randolph Price, and his reminder is that even though we are the one life individualized, we are right here where we are is the whole of God. And at the at the essential level, at the level of essence. So when we go within and we meditate, we are in touch with the allness of God as our very own selves with a capital S. I know it's kind of mind-blowing to really take the whole thing in, but this is the mystical perspective, and this is the perspective that we are here for as a spiritual community. This year we're talking, so that was the timeless wisdom. This year we're also continuing to revisit the evolutionary vision of Centers for Spiritual Living, the greater organization that we belong to. And the piece that really matches what we're talking about today says, we see a world in which each and every person lives in alignment with his or her highest spiritual principle, emphasizing unity with God and connection with each other, a world in which individually and collectively we are called to a higher state of consciousness and action. So this is about the embodiment of this oneness consciousness and bringing it, therefore, into every activity that we are involved with. So action, it's consciousness that produces a certain quality, higher order of action. I think I've shared with all of you that this month, each Saturday of this month, as part of Black History Month, I am taking a course that's called Lead Like Martin Luther King. And so each week we are looking at the qualities of leadership in this great man that led a very powerful movement that that changed things pretty dramatically. And knowing, yes, there is more change to be done, but it really did get the ball rolling. And so one of his talks that maybe is not as well known, but it's out there if you want to check it out on YouTube. It's called, What is Your Blueprint? What is your blueprint? And it is a beautiful talk that he did when he was in the city of Philadelphia to a middle school, a bunch of middle school students. And so he was talking in generic terms, and yet getting the point across of something that is a universal truth. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share his 3 points of what is your divine blueprint, steps to express your divine blueprint. And I'm going to, well, he says, what is your blueprint? I'm going to be talking about your divine blueprint. So I'll give you a few excerpts from his talk, and then I'll share with you the science of mind perspective that I think really backs that up so beautifully. So he begins by talking about how a well-designed building has a very well-designed blueprint. We know this. It takes that the architect that takes the time and puts together the blueprint, thinks of all the little details. That is the map that is followed by all of the workers who begin to build the building up from scratch. And so he goes on to tell the students that you are worthy now. He tells them that you're pre-approved, and know that you are somebody, have a deep belief in your self-worth, and know that you have something significant to give to the world. So have a deep belief in your self-worth. Well, we know from the science of mind, the mystical perspective, and what I've just shared with you earlier, that our blueprint is a divine blueprint. It's designed by God. It's a beautiful blueprint. And in the book by John Randolph Price, he quotes the Pistis Sophia treatise of the Gnostics. And in this particular treatise, Jesus says, Ye are all angels, all archangels, all of us. You are all angels. You are all archangels, all great invisibles, all great ones, emanations of the light with all their glory. That is what you are. That is what I am. That is what we are in truth. It's way beyond these physical bodies of what we are, these eternal emanations of the one light. So from that perspective, we can see that our worth is immeasurable, that we are all here and have very significant lives to live. And we're guided by the one universal mind that informs us as to what is ours to do, that one mind that is ours individualized. It doesn't mean that we're puppets, that we have to go around and do what the divine says. We have freedom of choice, but we are these amazing centers of divine operation. And so self-worth then is natural when we come from that perspective. When we come from that perspective of who we are in truth, we activate this thing called the divine blueprint in our lives. That is the bridging of heaven and earth, the consciousness of heaven and truth onto this plane. So knowing that, knowing who we are, engenders self-worth, and it activates that blueprint of who we are. And John Randolph Price goes on to say, if you could step back and look at your essence, you would see a blazing light, a field of infinite intelligence, power, wisdom, and love, fully present as you. So creation is at work all the time in, through, and as us. That is our nature as individualizations of the one creator. We are creating all the time. I'm creating right now as I speak. You are creating as you think about what I'm saying and think about how to apply it to your own life. And so what Randolph points out is when we continue to remind each other of who we are and remind ourselves of who we are, we operate in a higher order. We produce a higher order of creation that is based on love. So there it is. Happy Valentine's Day. It's all about love. And this higher order of creation comes from that vibration of love. And it happens not only when we remember that the divine presence is individualized as us and within us, and that our minds are the minds of God. It also, that higher order of creation takes place when we envision. I was thinking about when we were saying our intention today, when we envision that we are the presence of love, co-creating heaven on earth, a world that works for all. We are operating in a higher order. And we are having a tremendous impact, no matter what other people are thinking on the planet. Because I'm reminded by the work of Dr. David Hawkins that those who vibrate in love and above, love, peace, joy, and create from that place are so far exponentially powerful. There's tremendous power in those realms of being, of this oneness realm of being that we are in. I'm going to say not those, what we're in, what we're engaged in, that it offsets the negativity on the planet. And it's in the hundreds of thousands of people that we offset by, who are in the negative vibration, by operating in this realm. So a higher order is at work, a creation of a higher order. And he goes on to say something that I said a little bit earlier, that the eternal spirit, the primal power of the Almighty that dwells within us, is not just our higher nature. It is the allness of God that we are experiencing. And personality is simply the expression, the unique expression of this one life. And ego, I definitely want to go there and just share what that is all about. What we call the ego is really a thought form. It's a thought form based on separation, all the false beliefs that buy into the idea of separation from our good, separation from our truth, separation from each other. And these thought forms create fear. And they're created by the human mind. They're created by the human mind. It is a total illusion. That's the thing to come to the realization. And that is the mystical perspective, that this idea of separation is a total illusion, and it's dissolved every time we come back to the truth of every time we remind ourselves of the truth of the divine, the truth of who we are, of that one life, one source, one presence, one power. That is what our form of prayer does. It is a continual reminder of who we are and whose we are. And it is an opportunity to practice higher order creation from that state of mind. And so our role then is to be consciously aware of our divine reality, to speak and think our truth, and to envision heaven on earth, and to listen. And this is a very important piece. Listen continuously for the guidance and the inspiration that comes through moment to moment. And one of the tools that I use, and I'm sure I've shared this with you before, is on my phone, I have it programmed. I have this app called Mind Bell that hits a gong 3 times at the top of every hour. And Michelle and Dan have joined me in this. Whenever that goes off on my phone, we all stop and we all breathe. And so I invite you this week to do, if you do that, and I invite you to do that as a spiritual practice. It's something that you can do even if you have a very busy life. It's a way to fit meditation into your life and mindfulness in a really active way. I invite you to repeat this. I let God be God as me. I let God be God as me. So the second step to activating your blueprint, according to Martin Luther King, was have the determination to achieve excellence. Talked about excellence to these students, and it's just every bit as true about us. He said, be the best you, be the best you. And so let's talk about that a little bit. Let's unpack that. Excellence. Excellence is actually about setting a standard for ourselves of doing the extra. Just think about extraordinary. Just doing that little bit of extra beyond the ordinary. It doesn't mean that we have to exhaust ourselves or burn ourselves out, but it's just always thinking about, well, what's the little extra that I can do to bring this higher order of being into my world. And the little bit of extra could simply be, like I said, taking time at the top of each hour to remember who you are. And then you're bringing, that's the little extra that then you're bringing into your life. And it also means this thing about achieving excellence, the determination to achieve excellence. It means listening within for your soul's calling, your heart's desire. What that does is it shows up as things that you're interested in or curious about. And as it grows, it becomes a burning desire, something that you would love to do, or things that you love to do. And we learn to listen again through the practice of meditation, and to just take a moment and stop and go into the silence when we have an important decision to make. And the practice of visioning is really for the purpose of activating that connection with divine inspiration, and with the heart's desire, and with the ways and the means to achieve that heart's desires. And it's really all based on being willing to transform our consciousness, to let go of that illusion of separation, and to dwell in and live as, let God be God as us. I mean, that's the essence of it. Oneness consciousness. So when we catch a vision, this is what happens. It begins to build hope. Because if we're just focused on reality, so-called reality of this world, the conditions, we can lose hope, particularly when with some of the things that we see through the media. So a vision then keeps us in the vibration of hope. And as we follow it, as we're pulled by the vision, it builds trust and faith. So that vision then ultimately leads to excellence, to being extraordinary, beyond the ordinary. One of the things that we did in the Lead Like Martin session yesterday was to get in touch with our vision, purpose, and mission as individuals. And I realized when we were given us an opportunity to do this, I realized that when I was in the process of this, of how intertwined my personal vision is with our center. And I, first of all, here's the difference. The vision is the what. What is it? What is the vision? The purpose is why that vision is important to us. And the mission is how it's going to happen. So here's what I came up with. My vision is to be the light of the world, be the presence of love, co-creating heaven on earth, a world that works for all. So I know that sounds really familiar to all of you, but that's what I see for myself personally. And why? Why is it? What the purpose? Why? I have to free humanity from the illusion of separation, fear, suffering, conflict, injustice, and hatred. And then the mission, how I'm going to accomplish that, to share the vision and the purpose with others, and also the means to achieve it, which is teaching spiritual principles and practices. And the final piece of my mission is collaborating with others to fulfill this purpose. So I invite you to take some time yourself. What is your vision? That's the what. What is it that you feel that you're here for? And why? Why is that vision so important to you? And the mission, how is it that you are going to carry that out? And then Martin Luther King ended this particular piece with, instead of burn, baby, burn, he said, build, baby, build. If you can't fly, run. If you can't run, walk. If you can't walk, crawl. The key is to keep on moving. Keep moving forward. The final step to achieving our blueprint, according to Martin Luther King, was to commit to eternal principles. To commit to eternal principles. He talked about beauty, love, and justice. He said, don't allow anyone to cause you to hate, and take responsibility to make life better for everyone. This is the grand global perspective. So So, once you've come up with your vision and you have a determination to achieve excellence, and you know who you are and you have a deep belief in your self-worth, it's time to commit to eternal principles and to take responsibility for making the world a better place. So it's bringing the mystical consciousness into this world, bringing heaven to earth. So I'd like to illustrate this with a story that I recently heard. It's a story about a grocery store that decided to do a training for all of its employees that would help them bring a greater quality of excellence into the workplace, and talked a lot about service and that being the presence of love and so on. And so um, all of the employees were encouraged to come up with some way that they uniquely could bring those qualities into their workplace. And so the manager was walking through the store and noticed that one line was really, really long. One of the checkout lines was really long. And meanwhile, there were only a couple people in the other checkout lines. And this was like a week later, a week after this training. And so out of curiosity, the manager kept watching and noticed that the checker put a little note inside each bag of the customers, and the customer would leave with a big smile on their face. And so out of curiosity, she went up to the checker, the cashier, and said, what is it that's going on here? What are you putting in their bags? And she said, they're love notes. What a beautiful story for Valentine's Day, right? Love notes. She was writing personal, individual love notes that she was putting in their bags, and people would wait in a long line just so they could get the love note. How beautiful is that? The cashier used her imagination and used the principle of love, to uplift the customers that came into that store. So when we're talking about bringing these principles into the world, that's a beautiful example. These can seem like everyday things that anybody could do. And so that's really what we're calling upon, or is being called upon here, by living principle, committing to eternal principles, is just to simply ask yourself, what is mine to do? How can I more fully bring this vibration of love into the world? So Ernest Holmes said, we must become the thing that we want. We must see it, think it, realize it, be the creative power of mind. Before the creative power of mind can work it out for us. We must be it first. So if you want more abundance in your life, be abundance, share abundance. If you want more love in your life, be love. That means share love, express love. If you want more peace in your life, okay, be peace. Take time at the top of the hour and breathe and bring yourself back to that state of peace. So the mystical journey requires two major things. It requires your agreement to let God be God as you, and it requires your participation. That means being pulled by a vision, a purpose, a mission, committing to eternal principles to make the world a better place. And so I'm going to leave you with this. I'm going to invite you to ask yourself, what is one thing that I can do today to nurture the awareness of the infinite invisible as my guide, partner, and beloved source? In other words, nurturing oneness consciousness. Find that one thing, do it with love and intention. And believe me, my friends, it will guide you to your next step and your next step and your next step, and unfold a life of a higher order. Happy Valentine's Day, sending my love to each and every one of you. And to this I say, And so it is. Namaste.